Hey folks, it is good to have you back in the workshop. This is Doug from Wood Spun Round, and it's a beautiful day here in Kentucky, but I thought I'd take some time. It's been raining and dreary, so I wanted to take some time. This is a project that's been in the back of my mind for a couple of years now. Had a friend offer me some cherry, and went over and looked at it, and it looked like it was too far gone, but I cut a couple of big chunks off and brought it home, got it all ready, even went so far as to rough turn it and then put it into a plastic bag with all the shavings. And this is one of the blanks that came out of that. Has dried, and it is very nice. As you can see, it's extremely warped. What I'm doing here is I've already straightened up the tenon that's on the bottom. Um, Actually redid the whole bottom area, and have a tenon that's kind of sunken up into the bowl just a bit. I'll have to remember that as I do the inside. But I'm going to get the bottom pretty well finished up here. I'm going to have to do a little bit after I turn it back around the second time. But I wanted to come up the side of the bowl just a little bit so I don't have to work right up next to the chuck or the headstock. Saves me a little effort and a bit of stretching and twisting and what have you. But anyway, I do notice here that in the picture, it's waving just a little bit. I'm not sure. I've either got a light off or an extra light on or something that's causing that. Um, then again, it could be the cold. I've got all three types of lights. I may not have had the incandescent lights on, but the cold may be affecting the LEDs that I have overhead as well. Hopefully that's going to straighten itself out. So obviously here what you can see very clearly is that I have turned it around. I've got the chuck in my, or excuse me, I've got the tenon in my chuck. Again, using that original Nova chuck. It just works wonders. Really considered using my G3 with the heavy bowl jaws on this one. But just decided just to stick with what I've got. This has been working really well for me. You know what they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So we left it as it was. Just going to continue working on the outside all the way up. We want a nice smooth curve. There are some issues here. I did not take very, I wasn't real particular when I did the rough turn, and so because I knew it was going to warp and do all kind of funny things anyway. So it just causes me a little bit of trouble here, but really nothing I can't get around. Now, when I rough turned this, I left these walls pretty thick. They're about 1.5 inches, 1.75 inches thick. And so I've got a lot of room. I didn't mention a while ago that bottom, I measured it and I had over 2 inches in the bottom. So, I had plenty of thickness to work with. I was real excited the way this bowl dried. Yes, it warped, but it wasn't warped really, really bad. I think I was out 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. But the wood is extremely dry. It's pretty doggone hard, but there's a lot of thickness that I can work with here. So as I'm working on it, you can see here I'm just kind of working my way up, getting the rough spots off, and every once in a while I'll get a section real nice and smooth. We've been working on the side for a few moments, and I got a fairly smooth side here, a fairly nice curve that I like pretty well. But I'm going to make a final cut or two here just to smooth everything up, get this curve just where I want it, try to get the lumps and bumps out. I never do completely get the lumps and bumps out. Not sure why. I don't know if it's the wood or if it's me. Been a little while since I've done anything of any size. So it very well could be me. I've been doing small things recently. But anyway, this piece of cherry just, it came out beautifully. Most of the lumps and bumps are things that I'm going to notice that most people are not going to. I do well. I get most of them out, but there's still one or two small ones there that my fingers can feel. There, I'm feeling. I was working on one particular right through there. It's right about here that I'm deciding this is going to be a footed bowl. I'm not going to just round the bottom off into the bottom side of this tenon, or the bottom part of this bowl. But I'm going to actually make a foot so it sits up off the table just a touch. You'll see more of that probably toward the end. I'm working on the side, but here you see, I want to at least start that little foot that I was talking about. This will not be the final size or shape of it, but I get it started so I don't forget that I want it there. The one function of the foot is simply to lift it up off of the table, give you a shadow line underneath the bowl when it's sitting on a table. I already said this is not the final size or shape, but I am kind of trimming it back here. I end up trimming it back a good bit more when I reverse the bowl to work on the bottom and get it completed. Taking the tenon off and whatnot, I take about half of this foot off as well. It was just too big for my eye. So I took it off, and I feel it looks a whole lot better. I'm finessing this side just a little bit, doing a little shear scraping, just taking off some rough spots and some high spots that are still there, feeling with my hand as the bowl is spinning, but I've got a pretty smooth surface on here. I'm pretty happy with it at this point, and so I'm going to start sanding. I'm going to save you from that. We're going to skip through that. And in fact, I come back, even after I start sanding, I come back with my bowl gouge and straighten some things out that I feel as I'm sanding. Sometimes I have to get into the sanding process so that I can feel what that smooth surface feels like. So I'm going to bring you back when we get past this sanding point. Finally, got through with the sanding process. We went from, actually started with 60 grit, and I worked all the way up through 320 grit, and it was quite the chore. Again, it's a sizable bowl, and the bigger the bowl is, the longer it takes. And so I wanted it to be right, fixed some things, made some corrections, but made sure I took my time. I even backed up a time or two on a couple of the grits because it was just simply not where it needed to be. So I took my time, and here we are. I have turned the bowl around. I've turned my headstock. I've moved the camera, and now, as you can see, we're working on the inside. It is so nice not to have all of that wood to turn out of the inside of this bowl. That would be a lot of bowl, or a lot of shavings from this bowl that would be on the ground. There's enough shavings as it is. In fact, I took the biggest part of a garbage bag out when I cored this bowl. This is the largest of the cores. I took two smaller bowls out of this one, and I took a bunch of shavings even after I put them in the garbage bag with these green blanks. I took a bunch out to throw away. Don't like to put cherry or walnut out in my compost pile because both of them can be hazardous to both plants and animals, and so the walnut and cherry gets put in the garbage can. But here you can see I've resharpened the gouge, and I am getting curls. You can see a pretty good ledge there. I'm taking out a good bit of wood, but I'm working my way down just bit by bit. Right now, I am establishing the thickness of the bowl walls. The rim looks a little heavier because I've got that rim on the outside of the bowl. I want it to be a little heavier rim plus a place for someone to grip this bowl. But we're just working on it here bit by bit. Not worried. I'm not in a big hurry. It is out of round, and so it takes me just a minute to get past that, and then I can turn some nice shavings out. I've skipped ahead just a little bit. You can see I've worked my way on down the bowl, another section or two, but I wanted to come back and let you see this, something I do, and I've not seen too many people do it. But I stop before I go to the next section, and I feel those sides. Am I parallel? And I can feel where it is parallel, then all of a sudden it bumps out a little bit. That's what I'm doing with the pencil here. I'm marking that edge where it starts to get thick again. And so I'm going to make a mark, and I can take my gouge and come back in here. I'll start just above that pencil mark and thin down that last little bit before I get to the next section. That way I don't have a big wavy inside wall of my bowl that I have to come back and correct. As I'm working down inch by inch, I'm able to make the corrections, and it saves me from having to come back later and smooth everything out. There you just see some light shear scraping cuts to take out a little rough spot. Then I'm going to stop and I'm going to check it all out again. It's kind of rinse and repeat all the way down to the bottom of the bowl. Well, we worked right on down. We're pretty well gotten the sides. They're pretty well parallel. You saw me there with the bowl scraper, just getting that last little bit down toward the bottom. But I've kind of run out of tool rest. I can't get in. This bowl is deep enough. This little short tool rest just won't do it. I can't get close enough. So what do? Well, you take it out. You go get another tool rest that's a little longer. Actually, I go get the original tool rest from this lathe. I've got it on another lathe. It's a bigger lathe, and I really needed it over there. So I'm kind of in the market for some larger tool rest, some longer ones from side to side. But I'm going to be a little particular about what I get. So I'm just waiting to find the tool rest at the price that I want it. Anyway, I've got this longer tool rest on here now, and I'm going to be able to finish it out with this tool rest. I'm going to have to change my strategies just a little bit. I'm going to use a little bit larger bowl gouge. I'm still having to be off the tool rest far enough that I'm getting a little bit of vibration out of from the tool itself. So I'm going to go to a 5/8 bowl gouge. This is a pretty stout bowl gouge. It's not one of my first bowl gouges, but one I've had for quite a long time. I just don't use it much, and so I haven't had a need to replace it. You'll see it here in just a minute. It's obvious I've got a different tool rest there. This one is gray cast. It has no tool steel on the top. I may see about getting a piece of tool steel. There's a kit to retrofit that. In fact, that just looked like I pulled up, what tool is, oh, yeah, that's actually my scraper, my bowl scraper. Been watching some Richard Rafin videos, and he does that very bottom of almost every bowl with the with the bowl scraper. He's got 3, 4, 5 of them that he uses quite often, and so that's what I start with here. I'm even going to change this here in just a moment. You can see it's pretty rough. I changed the grip so that my forearm is on top of the handle, and that helps. But I'm going to change to yet another tool. It's another scraper, but it actually will do a much better job than this one. There we go. Switch them out. Now this is what this tool does best. This is my Easy Wood finisher. It's the first big round one. Mine is old enough. It's the CI0. They've changed those numbers and designations, but this is the Easy Wood finisher. It's about the 1/2-inch round carbide cutter, and it does just a wonderful job. Doesn't do all the bouncing and all of that the scraper was doing, and it's a stout enough tool that it gets in there and gets the job done. Sorry about the vibration in the picture that you see there every once in a while. The leg of the tripod is touching a 4x4 that I've got raising this lathe up, and there's just enough vibration coming through there to give it a problem. Now, I've changed from the finisher. This is a pro size. This is a, I'm not sure how to tell you what this is. This is the oversized, the extra large #1 hollower, the CI5, I believe it is. It's in a different handle, but that's what the tool is, and it does a fantastic job. It's a heavier tool, longer tool. The bar is shaped vertical instead of just square, and so that really cuts out a lot of the vibration. That long handle, I've got it tucked under my arm, and it's doing just a great. So you can see it very easily, very quickly removes a lot of wood from deep in this bowl. It does it fairly smooth too. It does leave a few ridges. That's been the kind of the knock on the carbide, the round carbides here recently, as they tend to leave ridges in the wood. That's easy enough to fix. I'll take my bowl scraper and just a couple of easy passes. We'll have that all squared away. In fact, I start off with the finisher. That'll do a good job, and then I'll finish it off completely with the bowl scraper. You don't really notice how much it's cutting until you turn the lathe off, and all that wood that has been kind of stuck to the sides with centrifugal force comes falling out. It adds up. It's a lot of wood very quickly. Just marking a thick spot so I make sure I get it, and it takes me several passes here. We'll skip forward because this is just kind of rinse and repeat. I do this several times, just trying to get a real smooth surface on the inside of this bowl. So we're going to take one last pass back with the bowl scraper again. One last pass just to finish it up. I've done this, I went through that same process with the Easy Wood finisher 2 or 3 times there with the bowl gouge, and there I'm just finishing up, blow out my shavings, and we're going to turn it off, make an inspection, but it is time to sand. Again, we're going to start with 80 grit, and we're going to work all the way up to 320. I wasn't going to show you any of this section of sanding, but I wanted to show you one thing here before we go on. See that darker section there toward the top? I had some tear out on the end grain on both sides, so I stopped and I applied some sanding sealer, let that dry for about an hour just to make sure it was good and dry all the way in. And as I sand, it's going to make a major difference. Could have done it another time or two, I guess, but just the one time putting the sanding sealer on the end grain. I'm also blowing out my dust mask. I'm going to wear it because this hardwood is creating a good bit of dust. Even though I'm running my vacuum, I'm running my air cleaner, I'm still going to wear my dust mask to keep that dust out of my nose, my throat, my lungs. It does make a big difference. We'll bring you back here in a few minutes after I get through with some of this sanding. Wow, that took a little while. But it feels so good now. The inside, the outside both have that wonderful silky, satiny, 320 grit sanding on them, and they're just fabulous. So here I'm spraying a little alcohol. I've put my alcohol in a spray bottle. It just seems to work fairly well for me. So I'm spraying it down, then I'll wipe it out, and this just takes care of the remaining dust that's in the pores of this wood. I've used my air compressor. I've got it set. It won't turn up any higher as far as how hard it blows out. And so it's been blown out really well. And then I use this alcohol and a paper towel, nothing special, and just rub it down inside and out. And it amazes me almost every single time how much dust comes out of this wood even after I've blown it with the compressor. Just amazing. But after this, we're going to go to the axe. The axe abrasive paste, which takes it then from the 320 all the way up to 1,000 grit. And then after that, I'll be using the wax, the carnauba wax that Tom makes there. I'm just simply showing you the axe abrasive paste. I use a little more on this than I have on any other piece I've ever done, simply because of the size. It's not a massive bowl, but it's bigger than what I typically turn. I usually turn stuff 6 to 8 inches, and this one is a touch over 12. So we're going to rub this in. We'll do it by hand with the lathe off, inside and out, and then I'm going to start the lathe at about 200. We'll work the speed up, turning the paper towel, getting a clean section of paper towel as we go until I get no residue on that paper towel. Once the residue is gone, once there is no residue, I know that the waxes and oils, the excess waxes and oils have done their job. I'll know that the grit is off. It's either worn out completely and down in the wood, more than likely because I've kept going until there's no residue. All the grit is in the paper towels that I use. I'll use several with this bowl. But it all works out, and you'll see the stills at the end. This bowl comes out very, very nice. But again, we're just simply using the axe abrasive paste. If you'd like to try the axe abrasive and wax, they come as a kit. Order from axewoodpaste.com. That's the only place you can buy it, axewoodpaste.com. And I can get you a 15% discount. When you get to the checkout page where it has the discount code, just put in there Doug15, DOUG 15, and Tom will be glad to give you a 15% discount. It's selling the sales have started to pick up a lot recently. This old house did an article saying that it really made a big difference. And so Tom's excited, I'm excited. Axe Wood Paste is a great product. you won't be disappointed. Give it a try, especially at that 15% discount rate. I take my time on this process, and it does take quite a while, so we'll skip ahead. We're finished with the abrasive paste. Now it's time for the polishing and restoring paste. This is the carnauba wax. Tom's had this as part of the kit from the beginning, but just recently, just a few months ago, started adding twice as much carnauba to the formula as what he was using, and it's tremendously different. I don't know how to explain it to you other than it made it harder in the jar, which tells me that there's more carnauba in there. But when you put it on, you work it in the jar. It comes off on your paper towel. You put it on your work, and you know it's going to re-solidify back to that hard wax coating, hard wax finish that it was in the jar. And so I'm just working around here, getting it worked in again, work it into the wood with the lathe off by hand, and then I'm going to start off. Well, I'm going to wait just a little while, let the solvents that are in there gas off, and then I'm going to come back and buff that so that I have that nice shine, and then I'm going to leave it alone for a little while. I don't want to overdo. So, in fact, I'm going to put 2 coats on here. We've applied the wax. We've given it about 15 or 20 minutes to kind of set up. Now I'm coming in here and buffing. At first, it's a very light touch. The longer I work at this, the faster I'll speed the lathe up and the more pressure we'll put on. And as you can see already, there's starting to be a bit of a shine to develop just almost instantly as soon as I start putting the paper towel to the wax. So we have sanded from 80 to 320. We've used the abrasive paste inside and out. Right here I am finishing up just wiping off residue, cleaning it up, getting some dust off, what have you. I've already waxed inside and out, 2 coats of wax, and it is looking marvelous. It feels fantastic. Go ahead and get my wax put away before I knock it off. But I'm going to take it off the lathe here and just let you see. I've enjoyed having you in the shop with me today. Anytime, I've already said this piece is not going to be available, but if by chance you ever see a piece that you would be interested in, please let me know. You can say something in the comments or get in touch with me on Facebook or Instagram. Be glad to talk with you about any of my pieces. I'll have some pictures up here for you in just a moment. Please hit the like button. If you're not already a subscriber, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you'll be alerted every time I post new content. But also leave some comments. Love to hear what you have to say. This is Doug at Wood Spun Round. Until we meet again, I hope you're able to spin 'em round.